All around the world, there are countries that have advanced humanity through the ages by having unique traditions and staying true to their principles. And today, we are reventuring into the country of Sweden to discover more about what is unique and traditional about this country while understanding its principles. It is a country that we've talked about before in one of our past videos, but was so fascinating to you and many others that we had to tell you guys more about it. So good afternoon everybody, or good morning, or good evening, whenever you guys are watching this video. My name is Dave Wapple and welcome to FTD Facts, the channel where we look at cultures, people, places, and animals from all around the world. And for this video, we've had a lot of you guys request us to do a part 2 on Sweden. People like Ellen Fredlitz, Anonymous User 7, Baron Wicklander, who I said a month ago that we were doing this video and it's well overdue. But there's also GBG Gangsters, Alvin's Land, and a lot more of you. Now before I jump in this video, I want to know from you guys, totally not related, what is the best movie that you guys have seen recently? I just recently saw Alien Covenant. I thought it was a really cool movie. I don't know about you guys, the reviews didn't quite do it for me because I was like, no, they're wrong, it's a great movie. But anyways guys, let's get talking about Sweden. So we covered a lot of facts in our last video, however there's still much to be discovered. And speaking about discovery, in our last video we definitely did talk about how Sweden has not participated in any wars in the last 200 years. But the truth is it wasn't always this case, because at one point Sweden was a powerful empire. However, before we talked about the Empire of Sweden, we should probably talk about its origins, the Kingdom of Sweden. Now one thing that's interesting, archaeologists don't really know why or how the Swedish kingdom actually began. But they currently pin Eric the Victorious as the first ruler of Sweden, who ruled all the way from 970 AD to 995 AD. But during this time, Christianity started to become quite popular within the country, and as it stands, Christianity is the largest following within the country, with the Church of Sweden being the largest denomination, having 6.1 million followers. It is also the largest Lutheran following in all of Europe. And this is all due to one guy who's considered Sweden's father of Christianity, and that is Saint Ansgar, who introduced Christianity to the Swedish pagan communities in 829. And by the time of 1050 AD, Sweden was known as a Christian nation. Now considering we're talking about Sweden in the first millennium, we should probably talk about Charles VII. He was the one that ruled Sweden from 1161 to 1167, but he was known as Karl, or more commonly known as Charles VII. But what's interesting about him is he really didn't have anybody named Charles before him. There was no Charles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So where did it come from? I don't know. And a few centuries after his reign, the kingdom had grown to become an official country in 1397, when it joined the Union of Kalmaris, which linked the countries of Denmark, Sweden, and Norway under one monarch. And it wasn't until about 400 years later, in the 17th century, when the country had formed as a great power, becoming known as the Swedish Empire. At that time, Sweden was under the reign of Gustavus Adolphus, who got to the throne in 1611. And it was during this time that Sweden began to join other European countries in colonization. For example, there's a new Sweden in Delaware in America, and some of the islands in the Caribbean have a very Swedish background or history. But colonization wasn't the only thing that was happening at this time. There was also the 30-Year War, which even in today's world is listed as one of the worst wars in European history. And even though they don't have an exact population count during this war from 1618 to 1648, it is theorized that Sweden alone lost 1/3 of its population. All over Europe, the war claimed over 8 million lives, and is known as the deadliest religion war in history. This all began when the Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand II imposed Roman Catholicism on its people. And because many countries were fighting with one another, Sweden had managed to conquer half of the Holy Roman states during this time. But however, let's move away from history and let's talk more about the landscape itself. Firstly, Sweden is a country that has over 95,700 lakes that are larger than 100 meters. And one in particular is the Vänern Lake, which is the largest in the country, coming in at 5,650 kilometers square. Now it has a maximum depth of 106 meters, and it is the third largest in all of Europe, with an estimated 153 kilometers square of water. With all this water, I was quite amazed to find out that 50% of their local water supply comes from groundwater and not lake water. But Sweden itself is also a country of firsts. First of all, it was the first country to ban smacking of your child and child abuse. This happened way back in 1979, however, it's not as bad as you think. Police won't go around in the country arresting everybody who hits their kid, they'll just give them a very stern talking to. And this is because within Sweden, they like to keep an eye on their kids. For example, advertising to a kid under 12 is considered illegal for some companies. And with the youth, there's also education. Now, you've probably heard that within Sweden, education is free. As a matter of fact, students are paid $187 a month to attend high school. And although it is true that 53 of the university and colleges within the country are completely free, that doesn't mean students are out of major debt. The debt is caused because the cost of living in Sweden is astronomically high. In Sweden, your rent is high, food is high, and Stockholm is one of the most expensive places to ever live. And it's not really a small price to pay because with education comes a lot of great opportunities. And Sweden itself is known to be tech central, as it has many companies that have created games like Candy Crush and Minecraft, but it also has some other reputable companies, and you guessed it, IKEA. IKEA was created by Ingvar Kamprad in 1943, who was only 17 at the time and in today's world is one of the richest guys on the planet. Now, when it started in 1943, it was only a mail-order business and eventually selling furniture 5 years later. By 1958, it had opened its first store and international stores following in Denmark and Norway in 1963 and 1969. And since 2008, it is the most profitable furniture store in the entire world. Now, if you go to Sweden, you'll probably notice another company, but an American company, and that is McDonald's. They are everywhere. Swedes love them. As a matter of fact, the country has 225 of them. Now, that might not seem like a lot compared to other European countries like Germany or Russia, but gliding along with Sweden's population, per capita, they have the most amount of McDonald's out of any European country. And perhaps this is due to the fact that some people in Sweden love the American way of life. And to prove that, in the years of 1850 to 1930, 1.5 million people of Sweden's 3.5 million people moved to America. However, in 2014, 1.3 million people are considered foreign-born. And out of that 1.33 million people, 64.4% of them are born in a country that doesn't belong to the European Union. But with all these foreigners, the question is, where do they go? Stockholm, which is a city which we will focus on for a future FTD Facts video, is not only the capital of the country, but it is also the most populated. Now, currently, they have over 1.3 million people, and considering we're talking about foreigners coming into the country and immigration, we should probably talk about the most important time of immigration in Sweden's history. And that time was during the Second World War. It is during the years of the Second World War that Sweden had become home to 99% of the Jewish community that lived in Denmark. Now, historical facts show that they managed to rescue 7,220 of the 7,800 Jewish people that lived in Denmark. And many of these people were smuggled through the Öresund Strait from Zealand into Sweden. And this is a reflection of how Sweden is a protector of rights for its people and others around the world. And one thing to mention before closing this video is that Sweden was the first country to ever abolish censorship. In 1766, it created an act to protect freedom of speech. This also allowed the freedom of the press. It was called the Law on Freedom of Printing of 1766, and this allowed for the first time in the entire world for state-authorized documents to be viewed by the public, thus making Sweden a country of progression. Sweden, what an amazing country, and it's been fun returning to dive a little deeper into this country. Now, my name's Dave Walpole, and first of all, I want to thank you, the viewer out there, who just took time to really learn about Sweden and want to learn more about the world around you. I also got to thank all of our viewers, our regular viewers, who, well, recommended this video, because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have learned something new today, and neither would have I. I think that's great. But however, keep that in mind. If you have a recommendation, please drop it in the comments section below, and we will look into it. Also, if you guys want to support us even further, you can either share this video on your social media feeds, or just give us a simple thumbs up. You know how it is. But this has been the beautiful and groundbreaking country of Sweden, a country that is filled with opportunity to progress mankind in ways that we never thought possible. A place that in some cases keeps to itself, but thinks for the greater good. This is Sweden, a people, culture, and country of firsts, and hopefully not lasts. Now before you guys get out of here, first of all, once again, thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to support us even further, you can hit up our Patreon for some new exclusive content that won't be available on your YouTube. But other than that, if you missed our first video, feel free to check it out right here. Or if you want a generic topic and learn about animals, check out our video on Bengal tigers. All of that information is also in the description box below, but thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.